Good to see you all. Tonight, we're going to do a overview of the entire Isopanisad in preparation for your examination. So today is the 11th of October. I'll be away next week. I won't be here. I'm taking some sick leave. I'm having a break to rest my head. So I won't be here next week. So there'll be no class next week. So you have 2 weeks to prepare. So not next Wednesday, but the following Wednesday, which will be the 25th of October. You'll have your closed book examination, which will be, you'll have 2 hours to complete it, up to 2 hours. So that will be in 2 weeks from now. So that examination will have 14 questions. Well, actually 12 questions, because 2 of the questions are the shlokas. So the verses are the invocation mantra and mantra 1, Om Purnam and Ishabhasha. Yeah, so those 2. So you got 2 weeks to memorize them if you haven't memorized them already. You'll then have to also complete the exam, which will be closed book. So you can't have the Isopanisad with you while you're doing the exam. And 2 weeks today, you'll also have to hand in a 500-word open book essay.
When?
2 weeks from today, on the 25th. So you got 2 weeks to write it.
Oh, we have to hand something in on the same day that we do the exam.
Yep. So you've got, it's only 500 words. It sounds like a lot, but it's only about a page. 500 words is not a lot. It sounds like a lot, but yeah, it's not. So you'll need to do a 500-word minimum. You can write more if you want. Minimum of 500-word open book. That means you can use the Isopanisad. You can have it there in front of you while you're writing your essay if you need to. So it's an open book. That'll be due in 2 weeks, and your closed book will be on the 25th. Does anyone have any questions about the process?
That 25th is a different day,
25th is 2 weeks today.
and that's when both of those things are happening.
Yeah, well, you've got 2 weeks to write the essay,
Yeah.
the 500 words. You have to hand it in
We
on the
hand it.
25th. Yeah, and then on the 25th, you'll also have your closed book. Okay, so
And are you going to send out like the essay topic? Or is it just
the essay topic, you need to write a summary of the Isopanisad in 500 words. You know, give like a synopsis, you can say, or a summary of the Isopanisad.
How it's, when you mean, as in how it's structured, or just the content, the topics?
You can write it according to how you want to write. You can take different formats. There's no hard and fast rule. There's no format that's right or wrong. So whatever you feel, like however you feel you'd like to write it, you can write it like that. But just as long as it gives, you know, somewhat of an overview of the essence or the a synopsis of the Isopanisad. So the reader can feel like he's getting at the gist of what the book is about. That's it. Okay, any questions, further questions on that? Okay, so we begin with the introduction. Now, the introduction is not always included in all the exams. Like when we do the Bhagavad Gita, the introduction is not included in the study of the Bhagavad Gita or the examination of the Bhagavad Gita. However, the Bhagavad Gita introduction it's a masterpiece in itself. It's fantastic, but we don't examine it. But that'll be up to you to read it in your own time. But the Isopanisad, it is included in the exam because it's such a pertinent part of the book. And Prabhupada, the topic of the introduction is the importance of Vedic knowledge. Why is Vedic knowledge important? First of all, what is Vedic knowledge? The word Veda means knowledge, and Vedic knowledge means Divya Gyan, or spiritual knowledge, that which is meant to enlighten us. So that is the topic of the introduction, the importance of the Vedic knowledge. Why is it so important? And Prabhupada, when you read through the introduction, Prabhupada will explain why the Vedic knowledge is so important. And Prabhupada especially focuses on the 4 defects of the conditioned soul. We have 4 defects, and I gave a particular order for those 4. So that might be handy for you in your exam to focus on that, because the 4 defects of the conditioned soul are what obscures the conditioned soul from understanding the absolute truth. And Vedic knowledge is aparusham, as Prabhupada explains, it is beyond defect. And Prabhupada emphasizes in the introduction, there are different ways that we can receive Vedic knowledge, right? It can be received in different ways. And Prabhupada emphasizes the most important way to receive Vedic knowledge, which, yeah, we can say the descending versus the ascending process. That's important. We can also emphasize Shabda Brahma, which means hearing spiritual sound. That's the most important way to receive knowledge, and particularly Vedic knowledge. We need to hear spiritual sound from an authorized personality. So that's the introduction. Prabhupada gives he creates quite a lot of importance on the introduction itself. Does anyone have any points or anything you'd like to ask or add regarding the introduction? Okay. So then we go to the first 3 mantras, including the invocation. So invocation, mantra 1, 2, and 3. So when you put them together, the invocation and the first 3 mantras, that section can be summarized as it's describing the perfect relationship between the Lord, the living entities, and the Lord's creation.
Sorry, what was it again?
The Lord himself, the living entities, and the Lord's creation.
Perfect relationship
Yeah, the perfect relationship.
between Lord.
Yeah, the Lord, the living entities, and the creation. As we explained, these topics are also explained in the Bhagavad Gita. So the Bhagavad Gita also describes these topics, and the Isopanisad continues to expand upon them. So in particular, we hear in the first mantra, in the invocation mantra, that there are 3 complete units. Because what is the principal word in the mantra, in the invocation? Purnam, yeah. So Purnam means complete. Yeah, everything is complete. So Krishna himself is complete, first and foremost. Krishna is not lacking anything. He is complete. That's what makes him Bhagavan. Bhagavan means supreme personality. So there's nothing lacking in Krishna. He is complete in eternality, complete in knowledge, complete in bliss. So there's nothing lacking in Krishna. All the opulences are within Krishna. The second complete unit is the living entity. The living entity is also complete. He is part and parcel of Krishna. So the living entity is complete. And if we're not feeling complete, which is what many of the living entities in this world are feeling, that is because we're not connected to Krishna properly. Because what is the connection between us and Krishna? It is abhideya. Abhideya means bhakti, bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga is the connection between us and Krishna. So the living entity is complete when the living entity is fully absorbed and engaged in serving Krishna, who is the complete whole. So when we also engage in serving Krishna perfectly and purely with unalloyed devotion, then we feel complete, right? If we're not feeling complete, it means we're not serving Krishna properly. Because when you serve Krishna properly, you will feel complete. You will feel satisfied. Yeah, confirmed. You will feel complete. No, any incompleteness is just a result of not fully surrendering to Krishna. That's all. So the living entity is complete when connected to Krishna. And the third category of completeness is the Lord's creation. The spiritual world itself is complete, and even the material world is complete in the sense it runs itself. It is fully automated. Just like today, I showed Atuya ChatGPT for the first time, OpenAI. So, she saw, and this thing kind of runs itself. That's the way technology is becoming, but it still has limitations. Whereas Krishna's creation, everything we see around us, is working in an automated fashion. Krishna's got the whole thing working, right? Completely, perfectly. No defect. Just like on Saturday, there's going to be an eclipse. So we can tell when the eclipse is going to come to the second, thousands of years before it happens. Because everything is so complete and perfect in his creation, it just works perfectly, right? There isn't a clock created by a man or a woman on this planet that just keeps running. Right? You have to start them again, or they break down, or they just won't run on and on and on and on. But Krishna's creation does work like that. Angelina's just joined us. Welcome. That's good. So it is working completely. So these three features are spoken of in the invocation mantra, Om Purnam. Krishna is complete, the living entities are complete, and the material creation and the spiritual creation for that Herbal. And the spiritual creation for that matter, the material creation for that matter is also complete. It's more emphasized in the purport as opposed to the spiritual creation. So does anyone have any points or any questions or anything regarding that?
Do they use that language referring to it as the spiritual creation, like the spiritual world?
In what respect?
Like, I've heard the language like material creation. I haven't heard the language spiritual creation before.
I mean, we can say it like that.
Yeah.
Whether or not Prabhupada says that, he might say that. Spiritual creation. Yeah, I'm not sure if Prabhupada uses that terminology or not.
But is spiritual actually ever been created? It just is.
Yeah.
So
So
it doesn't be created.
yeah, Prabhupada may not use that word.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're getting the point. There's two creations. So this mantra is it can be misinterpreted. The Isopanisad, because it's an Upanishad. Upanishad means it's very philosophical. The
invocation mantra?
No, the entire Upanishad, the Isopanisad, or any of these, like the Bhagavad Gita, for example, it's very philosophical, and the Isopanisad as well. When something is very philosophical, it can be interpreted in an impersonalistic way, and we mentioned this, right? The impersonalists, they misinterpret many things within the Isopanisad because it can be taken in an impersonal way if it's read one way. But it can also be taken completely personally if we read it that way. So this particular verse, the first verse, the Mayavadis can misconstrue. Yeah, they say everything is one. Purnam means complete. It is complete. We are complete. It is all complete. We are all one ultimately. That's their logic. But that's a false logic. So we need to use the Isopanisad, this particular verse in particular, to defeat Mayavad philosophy. In other words, there are many Purnas. It's not that everything is just one, but there are many Purnas. There are many complete units. They are one but different. Achintya, Beta Tattva. Lord Chaitanya teaches us this. Everything is one, but it is also different. So, does it make sense?
Mm.
Okay. So then we go to mantra 1, which is your second key memory verse, KMV. And mantra 1 is a very important verse because it teaches all of us how we should live in this world. It is what we call, Prabhupada calls it the Ishavasya principle. Ishavasya principle means?
Everything's controlled by him.
Yeah, everything's controlled by him, but Prabhupada explains the Ishavasya principle as everyone has their quota. That's what's spoken of in this particular mantra. We all have a quota. God gives us all a quota, and we should not take anything more than what we are given by him. If we try to take more than that, it will become a distraction for our spiritual life. It is unnecessary. This will be explained more in the Nectar of Instruction, which we'll study next. We'll finish this. I'll be going to India in the beginning of November. So when I get back, we'll start Nectar of Instruction. So you can, while I'm away, you can study Nectar of Instruction. Get yourself ready. So this principle of Ishavasya means we should only accept our quota. And that is the same for everyone. We're all given a quota by Krishna. Some are given more, some are given less. Like there's a devotee in our movement called Ambarish Prabhu, who is the great-grandson of Henry Ford. His name is Alfred Ford. So he inherited the Ford empire. So that's his quota. What's his quota? He's a multimillionaire. He has private jets. It's like, that's his quota. It's not our quota. Krishna will give us all what we're meant to be given. But we have to use it in Krishna's service. Prabhupada said to Ambarish Prabhu, use your wealth to build the TOVP. So he gave $30 million to build the Temple of the Vedic Planetarium in Mayapur. And now he's giving more because costs keep going up. So he keeps giving more. So that is the quota which he's given. So the point is, according to this Ishavasya principle, all of us are meant to use that which we are given in the service of Krishna. And if we don't use it in the service of Krishna, we become bound in this material world. Karma bandhana, Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, which means we become bound by the material energy. So it's very important that we use the energy which is given to us, the facility which is given to us in Krishna's service. So that is the mantra 1. The invocation is explained. And then mantra 1 explains to how the living entity should relate with the material energy. How do we relate? Right? We just use it in Krishna's service. That's the
Mantra 1 is how we relate to material energy.
Yeah, how the living entity relates to the material energy. And how does he relate? He uses it in Krishna's service. Okay, so any points so far? Nope. Okay. Mantra 2. So mantra 2 explains the benefit of working in the Ishavasya conception. What is the benefit? One becomes free from karma. Because karma is the energy which keeps us all bound. This is all Bhagavad Gita. You know, the Bhagavad Gita speaks of 5 subject matters. So what's one of the subject matters? Karma. Right? What does karma do? When we keep creating karma, it keeps us bound in this material world. No? It keeps us bound. We just keep getting born and born again because we keep performing fruitive activity. So this verse, the second mantra, is explained to us. If we work according to the Isopanisad principle, then we free ourselves from karma. Everything is meant to be used in Krishna's service. So we want to understand this principle, right? Otherwise we bind ourselves. All the living entities are bound in this world by their karma. Right? You see so many living entities, everyone's bound. Right? Everyone's just trapped in this material world. They don't even know how to get out.
Even trees.
Especially trees. It's not a good birth. It's a long way to the top.
I like trees though.
We love trees. But you would not want to be in that body tonight.
Maybe a human tree. In Krishna,
Yeah, that could be, but they had to wait for a long, long time. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. I wouldn't recommend it anytime soon. Therefore, it is said that we should become liberated. That's what this second principle teaches us. The second mantra. Become liberated from this karma, which is within this material world. How? By using everything in Krishna's service. And in that way, we will become liberated, so we don't get bound up by the material energy. So, any points here? Okay, so then mantra 3, which is connected, because the invocation and then mantra 1, 2, and 3, they're all connected. Mantra 3 explains the fate of those who fail to recognize the Lord's proprietorship and therefore act in a vikarmic way. So what happens if we completely ignore Krishna's instructions? Yeah, ignorance. Yeah, we will suffer. You'll stay bound in this material world. So it's our choice. Isopanisad is teaching us. You can stay bound in this world. You can stay in this material world, bahu jamma, which means lifetime after lifetime, many lifetimes. You can just stay, being born again and again and again in this material world. Or you can begin to practice devotional service, follow the Isopanisad principle, use everything in Krishna's service, and become liberated from this material world. Right? Otherwise, as mantra 3 teaches us, you will suffer. Right? And that's what everyone's doing in this material world. They're suffering due to forgetfulness of Krishna. And then they perform vikarmic activity. This is all Bhagavad Gita. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks of 3 types of karma: karma, vikarma, and akarma. So karma means good things, vikarma means bad things, and akarma means devotional service. So Krishna is recommending perform devotional service. Otherwise, vikarma is very dangerous. You know, if you perform negative activities, you'll suffer. In this material world, people suffer heavily. So, any points? Okay. So then we go to the next section. The next section is verses 4 to 8. So there's a connection between verses 4 to 8 in the Isopanisad. The theme of those verses, those 5 verses, is the inconceivable Lord can only be known by the Mahabhagavata. Krishna can only be understood by someone who is very advanced in Krishna consciousness. So, mantra 4 teaches us and explains why people are unable to understand the Lord's position. People don't understand Krishna's transcendental nature. Krishna explains this in the Bhagavad Gita, Jammakama Chame Divyam. He is a transcendental entity. He can't be understood by material faculty. Ataha Shri Krishna Namadi, Nabhave Graham Indriya, Sevan Mukhi Jivado, Swayameva Sparatyada. Right? It is mentioned in the Vedas that you can only understand Krishna with purified senses. With material senses, you can't understand Krishna. Right? And so many living entities in this material world, they fail to understand Krishna's position because they think that he's a material person like us. But he's not like us. Right? His activities are extraordinary. Right? Krishna entered household of life, but he didn't enter household of life like us. Right? He had 16,108 queens, and he expanded himself to live with each one simultaneously. Yeah. Not at the moment, but he lived with everyone simultaneously. Right? Every living entity, every queen, Krishna was with simultaneously, fully satisfying them, and was independent in each expansion. It wasn't like all the expansions were doing exactly the same thing. Completely independent with everyone. This is his supreme power. So Krishna is not ordinary. This is hard for people to understand. People think that Krishna is ordinary. They criticize him. They think that he is like us, but there's nothing about him that's like us. Some things appear to be like us, but most things are completely extraordinary. So, Mantra 5 teaches us that it continues describing the Lord as inconceivable, and he is unknowable to those who he does not favor, right? So for the non-devotees, or those who fail to serve Krishna, they cannot understand Krishna, right? They can't understand him. He's not perceivable by those who are under the influence of the material energy. Mahatmanas tumam parta daivim prakriti mashrita. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, I'm only understood by Mahatmas, those who are situated in the Daivi Prakriti. And Daivi Prakriti means the spiritual energy. Yeah. Unless you're in the spiritual energy, you can't understand Krishna. Yeah. So this mantra 5 explains to us that he is unknowable to those who don't have his favor. How do you get Krishna's favor? By devotional service. Right? If you sincerely render devotional service to Krishna, Krishna will reciprocate. Yayatamam prapachante tams tataiva bhajamyaham. He says in the Bhagavad Gita, as you surrender to me, I will reward you accordingly. Right? So whatever you do for Krishna, Krishna will reciprocate like that. You give everything to Krishna, Krishna will give everything to you. If you hold back, he will hold back from you. If you're fruitive, then he will reciprocate the same with you. You know, I'll serve you, Krishna, but you have to give me this and this, right? Devotees think like that. Oh, you know, Krishna, you give me money, then I'll serve you. That's not what devotional service is for, right? That's the benefit of practicing brahmachari life or brahmacharini life. That's why we practice these things, because we just serve Krishna without thinking, what do I get in return, right? It's not a material exchange. Sometimes devotees think like that. Oh, I'll serve Krishna if I get paid like that. But that's fruitive. And if you think like that, you won't get Krishna, right? You might get a wage, but you won't get Krishna. So we serve Krishna regardless. Some of us do get paid because that's our full-time vocation, right? We have families and so forth, so the temple gives us some money, right? But that's not our motivation. If we don't get a wage, it doesn't mean we stop serving Krishna, right? Our motivation is to please Krishna. That's our principle, our motivation. So Krishna is not understood by those who he does not favor. And who does he favor? The devotees. Bhakto sime sakha cheti, he says in Bhagavad Gita. One who is my friend, one who is my devotee, that's who he favors. One who has devotional spirit.
It's an interesting topic.
Hmm.
Regards that all fish are seen as equal. I guess that's transcendental energy. They can help people, but you can also favor someone.
Yeah, he says that he favors those who serve him.
Gods rather than the demons.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could have some demons and devotees too.
Yeah, Prahlad Maharaj and Bali Maharaj. Yeah. Someone like that. Okay. Any points? Oh, okay. So then mantras 6 and 7. So in mantra 6, we hear about the vision of one who sees Krishna everywhere. In other words, the Maha Bhagavata. And mantra 7 continues to explain the consciousness of the Maha Bhagavata. A Maha Bhagavat literally means a great soul. Maha means great. Bhagavata means personality. So a very great personality. That's who Krishna is interested in revealing himself to. So we hear in mantra 6 and mantra 7, we hear about the consciousness of the Maha Bhagavata, all right, of someone who is a Maha Bhagavata. So we need to understand we're very fortunate because, we're in ISKCON. We're second generation. We're disciples of Prabhupada's direct followers.
I'm third.
Well, yeah, third technically, but, Maharaj was, virtually there,
In the concert.
Yeah, third, yeah. Yeah, so, second generation, third generation at most. Like, we're very fortunate to be that close to Prabhupada, that close to a Maha Bhagavata. Like, we're just separated from a Maha Bhagavata. So, Prabhupada was so well documented, so much video footage, so much recording conversations. I mean, at one point they found hundreds of extra, conversations and lectures and things. So.
And notes in his room.
Yeah, that was the Mukunda Mala Stotra, which he never finished, but yeah, that was quite amazing. So, in his books, so much literature, so we have such an opportunity to understand the consciousness and the example of a Maha Bhagavata. Yeah, that's why we read the Lilamrita, like you're reading that right now, right? Yeah. So that's one of the prerequisites before you take initiation. You have to read the Lilamrita, So, I read that many, many, many years ago, Lilamrita, 30 years ago, I read that. It changes your life. And that you get to know Prabhupada. You have to know Prabhupada. You have to know him intimately. And then there's so many other books. I've got so many books. When you finish that, you can start, if you want, you can start borrowing, more and more books. There's so many books, the Transcendental Diaries, of Hare. Hare Prabhu lived with Prabhupada every day for 15 months. Imagine being with Prabhupada every day for 15 months, and he recorded it all. And that's my favorite book out of all of the biographies of Prabhupada, the Transcendental Diary. Because then, and Hare Prabhu did a seminar on the books. And, I learned things about Prabhupada. I know Prabhupada quite well, fairly well, but I learned things I just did not know. Because he was with him every day. So it's just such an intimate vision. So we're so fortunate because, as it says here, we're getting to understand the vision of the Mahabhagavat, someone who's directly reciprocating with Krishna, who's become a pure devotee. And we're so fortunate because we have the example of the pure devotee so close to us. Like literally, when the Prabhupada lived was not even 50 years ago. So that's in our lifetime. Like I was on the planet while Prabhupada was on the planet. That's extraordinary. That's like the equivalent of someone like Jesus being on the planet. You're living in his lifetime. That's an extraordinary opportunity. So we're very fortunate. So if you want to understand the Mahabhagavat, then just understand Prabhupada. Right? And then you will understand who and what is a Mahabhagavat devotee.
But that mantra goes into like the 3 stages to realization of the Lord's presence. So should we be like referring to those as well?
The Kanishta, Uttama, and Majjhim.
Yeah. I mean, obviously my Bhagavats and, Uttama Adhikari that, should we reference that, there is Majjhim, or are we just really emphasizing the Uttama Adhikari?
You'll have to wait till the exam and see what the questions are like. I'm just covering what's in the exam. If you want to embellish, as you see fit when you get to it.
Oh, okay. It's just that, like, because you say, sorry, I'm just getting confused because you're saying a lot about,
Yep.
the, what do you call them?
Mahabhagavat.
Mahabhagavat, but then that kind of purport goes in a lot into
The different types of devices. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure how much to emphasize. Or...
Yeah. Once again, once I can only indicate what's in the exam. I can't say what's there. So, but it's good to understand because that purport Prabhupada does speak about the 3 levels of devotion, Kanishta, Majjhim, and Uttama Adhikaris. So that's a very important thing to understand in our philosophy. So you need to understand that subject matter. Whether you're examined on it in this exam or not, that'll be seen.
But the Mahabhagavats,
The Uttama Adhikari.
that you're referring to because of the descriptions.
Yep.
In
Yep.
that mantra.
Yep. Okay. Any other points at this point? So then mantra 8 emphasizes and describes some of the qualities of the Lord as he is known by the Mahabhagavata. So some of the qualities of the Lord are described in mantra 8. And then we have mantras 9 till 11. So mantras 9 to 11, that's another section. That section, the subject of the section is comparing the cultivation of knowledge and nescience. So we discussed this when we went through that a few weeks back. You only understand black when you've seen white. You only understand white when you see black. You only understand light when you see darkness, and you only understand darkness when you see light. You need contrast. And Burujam Prabhu points this out. We need to understand both, and a good teacher explains both. And Krishna does that all through the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, okay, this is what a demon is, right? What's the best way to understand a demon? Here are his qualities. What's a better way to understand a demon? See what the opposite is, a devotee. And then Krishna gives his qualities. So when you have the contrast, it makes you understand the other easier, right? It's more complete. Okay, that's what a demon is. Here's the qualities. However, that's what a devotee is. Here's his qualities. So when you look at both, it makes you appreciate the other more. So in these 3 verses, we have a comparison between knowledge and ignorance, vidya and avidya. Darkness and ignorance, and light and knowledge, both are given. So mantra 9 explains that there are two kinds of people who lack knowledge of Krishna. Those who are simply ignorant, and those who are followers of material scholarship. So in other words, we're speaking about karmis and jnanis. We're speaking about those who are materially focused, who think sense gratification is the goal of life. That's most of modern society. They just think the goal of life is sense gratification. As long as I can enjoy my senses, I'm happy, I'm successful. But they don't do it in a regulated way or in a Vedic way. They just do it in an unrestricted way. And when you do that, then you will get heavy reactions, just like we're seeing around the world now. Heavy reactions coming. You see the news, it's just, it's heavy. Yeah. I've actually got to a saturation point. Normally I have a look, but at the moment, I'm not even looking because it's too heavy. And that's why so many people have got psychological problems in this day and age, because we're not meant to be bombarded by this all the time. Yeah. So you guys are happy and safe.
Yeah, the world's,
We'll keep an eye on it just to make sure that it,
doesn't come here.
if it's getting close, we'll let everyone know.
Mm.
And then we'll get the tractor up to the front gate and dig a big trench.
You got it.
Yeah.
Like that.
No, we have. Like if it ever goes down, we'll block things off, and we've got quite a bit of food in there. Keep us going for a month or two, and then we'll see. So, there's those who are just into sense gratification, they're karmis. And then there's jnanis, who they think the goal of life is to merge into the absolute. So both of these personalities are in ignorance. So you can't become a devotee if you're too much into sense gratification or too much into impersonalism. Right? Both of those things are going to, that karma and jnana cover bhakti. Right? You can only take to bhakti when those two sufficiently die down. When we're not too much into sense gratification and when we're not too much into impersonalism. So, mantra 10 describes that true knowledge brings a different result from ignorance. Mantra 9 emphasizes ignorance. Mantra 10 goes into knowledge, so that we understand what is knowledge, and emphasizes the act of discriminating between real and illusory knowledge. So we have to learn to discriminate. We have to learn to understand what is actual knowledge and what is not knowledge. So many people, they don't understand the difference. So we have to understand, that's why Isopanisad is teaching us. This is knowledge, this is ignorance. We have to understand both. What we should focus on, what we should not focus on. And by understanding that, then we will make advancement in our Krishna consciousness. So mantra 11 speaks that it describes the relative position of material and spiritual knowledge to transcend the material energy and attain deathlessness. So we have to understand. We have to study the nature of ignorance. That's why so much of the Bhagavatam, because Krishna's pastimes are spoken in the 10th canto. But leading up to the 10th canto, 9 cantos, thousands of verses to tell us this material world is false. Why? So that we let go of it. So that when you get to the 10th canto and you hear Krishna's pastimes, you can enter the pastimes. You can't enter the pastimes as long as you're still attached to everything. Truly. You can't fully enter the pastimes. So that's why so much of our philosophy is based on telling us The material world is false. You listen to Prabhupada's lectures. You are not the body. But then every day we act like we are the body. So what do we understand? So now go back and understand again, you are not the body. All right? And then with that going into our consciousness, year after year after year, eventually we'll realize this. And then we can fully surrender to Krishna. So that's why we have to study both. The nature of the material world and then the spiritual energy simultaneously. Okay, so mantras 12 to 14, the theme of these mantras is comparing the worship of the absolute to worship of the relative. So verses 12 to 14, they explain worship of the relative and worship of the absolute truth. When you worship the absolute truth, when you worship, you become liberated from this world. When you worship things in this world, it binds you to this world. Right? Attachment is what binds us to this world. Right? That's why the spiritual knowledge breaks our attachment, so that we can transcend this material world once and for all. So these verses, 12 and 13, they describe the destination of one who worships things in ignorance, in darkness, and one who worships Krishna. Right? And what will be the destination? Because the destination is very different between the two. So when we become a Dhira, mantra 13 explains about being a Dhira. A Dhira, Krishna uses this word in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita also. Dhira means one who is sober. When you become sober in Krishna consciousness, then you won't become bewildered by the material energy. But those who are not sober, they become bewildered by this material energy, right? Lifetime after lifetime. So therefore, these verses are speaking about the different results of worship, worship in ignorance and worship of the absolute truth. And then finally, mantra 14, which is the last verse in that small section, explains one who conducts worship of the improper object and the improper conception and what they will achieve. And then this mantra, mantra 14, states that we must know the spiritual and material energies properly in their respective positions to attain liberation. So we have to study both. Right? That's what the whole Bhagavatam is about. That's what the whole Bhagavad Gita is about. That's what the Isopanisad is about. All the Bhakti Shastras, they teach us to study both. Yeah. We hear about the negative. Prabhupada said we have to develop a healthy pessimism for the material energy. We should be pessimistic about this world in a healthy way, not in an unhealthy way. But we should understand it. Everything is fatalistic in this world. Everything's going to finish. So the wise who know this, they don't become bewildered by this material energy. That's what Krishna is teaching here in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Isopanisad, in the Bhagavatam. All these things are being taught. Does anyone have any points? Here. Okay, and then the final section, which is mantras 15 to 18. It's a very special section because it discusses prayers for revelation of the Lord's spiritual form. So we hear about different prayers which the devotee makes. And the question is, why is the Isopanisad appearing to pray like a devotee? Because Isopanisad is a devotee, personified Veda. Right? So he's praying to the Lord. and teaching us how we should pray to the Lord. So, mantra 15, it describes that one must cultivate a deep relationship or a deep understanding of Krishna's potency. His potency is the Brahma Jyoti, right? And it is prayed in this section that, please remove that Brahma Jyoti, that blinding light, which emanates from you, because that is a distraction. That distracts us from understanding you. So please remove that blinding light so that I can see you properly. I can see you as you are. So the prayer is there to reveal the Lord's form. We want to see the Lord's form. We don't want to see the Lord as formless. So we need to see his form. So then mantra 16, it is describing that there is a continuation of that theme to understand the Lord's form, to remove that blinding light which blocks our understanding of Krishna. Then in mantra 17, there is an emphasis on understanding Krishna at the time of death. Because Krishna explains this in the Bhagavad Gita also, yam yam vapi smaram bhavam. Whatever you remember at the time of death, that state you will attain without fail. Prabhupada explains to us that even if we don't remember Krishna at the time of death, for whatever reason, maybe we're in a coma, right? Say you've been a devotee your whole life and you serve Krishna your whole life, but then at the end you're in a coma and you pass away, right? Krishna will not forget you. Maybe you didn't remember Krishna because you couldn't, but Krishna will not forget you. That's the point. So we're hearing about the consciousness of a devotee at the time of death. And then the 18th verse, the final verse, it explains it's a concluding prayer for a devotee who is praying to receive Krishna's mercy. So that's how a devotee prays. A devotee always prays, Krishna, please give me your mercy. Without your mercy, I am helpless. I am trapped within this material world. So that's the summary of the Isopanisad. Does anyone have any questions or any clarification or anything you would like to know? Anything you would like to add?
Copy of the questions.
Can I give a copy? Now?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the idea. That's not the idea.
Well, just a question.
Yeah. Nice question. Yeah, this is a closed book exam. Yep.
Hi. I'm just wondering, I'm having trouble
No, they're on my
accessing.
phone. What's that?
I'm having trouble accessing the recordings of the last 3 sessions. Is anyone else having that trouble? Or just me?
Accessing them. Has anyone tried to get into the recordings? No. The earlier ones you can access?
Yeah, just the 3 I've missed. I can't
Okay.
access.
You can't access. Okay.
No.
Send me a message. Send me a message today or tomorrow, and I'll follow up Vineet.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll get him to work that out. I'm not
Perfect.
sure why that is. Why it's
Thank
not
you.
accessible.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so you have 2 weeks to prepare. You need to write your essay, and you need to prepare and study and memorize. And then on the 25th, you'll have your examination. Like that. Jai, thank you all for coming. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Aye.
May Krishna bless all of you.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just remember the most important point, right? Whoever gives me sweets will get good marks.
Is it here?
I bring papaya.
He'll
Yeah.
bring papaya.
Yeah, I have my fingers crossed. So it means that still give me the sweets, and I don't know if the marks will be good or not. But that is my prerogative. But
Okay.
yeah, just you've got 2 weeks to
Thank
prepare.
you.
No class next week. And then if you need to ask questions, just send me a message. Yeah, if you need clarification, anything, just, or, you know, if you need help with anything, just let me know. Okay. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Jay,
Haribol.
Prabhu, can I ask a question off track?
Who's asking?
Shruti.
Yeah, Shruti, yep.